What if a what if had elements of a what if in the what if that was a what if because of the what if it was what ifing in? Whoa, what ifception. What's up everybody, StevDeS here, and I am not returning to gaming quite yet. The thing about it is I still have some moving around in the house to do. I have a full-time job that I'm trying to get the hell out of, and I also have a license class that I still have yet to complete. There's a lot more on top of that, but those are the three big ones that take up my time. As you can tell, it's daytime behind me. You see that? You see that? It's daytime. Sorry, Vegeta. It's daytime. And when I first started this, it was nighttime. Tells you something, don't it? However, I had this idea some time ago that was inspired by the MasakoX channel, similar to how Masako came up with R&R and all his what-ifery, and yes, what-ifery is a word, and it is Masako's word, and, Schmidt, thank you. There was one particular what-if on his channel that I was enjoying very much, and the most recent part, part 4, was indeed pretty much a revelation. I didn't think Krillin was that into Goku, but with Goku being a woman, why not? From that point, I was thinking, what else could be explored in this realm of what-ifery? And then I just thought about it, well, certainly a different character could be female. And then I started looking on DeviantArt. But that's not the only place I looked. After processing it, and it's not entirely about the female thing, I just thought that would be a good one. I also had thought of other what-ifs to other video games and other media, which I will do on the channel. It's not going to be primarily Dragon Ball, but because MasakoX inspired me to do this with his most recent what-if of what if Frieza and Dr. Gero teamed up, which, by the way, nobody was thinking about that one, Masako. Good lord, you came out of left field with it. I had to take some what-ifery maximum strength to get over that headache. Thanks, man. And I was really inspired with this message he said in the beginning of it. And of course that got me thinking, well, I'm a creative soul, why not? This is what if Vegeta was born female. Now, since we're starting when Vegeta is born, there is a couple things I want to establish beforehand. Thinking this idea over and over and over, I had to think about how planet Vegeta was around the time that Vegeta was born in the original series, and how many years apart that was. Luckily, the internet had plenty of resources for me to look at, including an official Dragon Ball timeline established by Akira Toriyama himself. So, there I looked at it, and apparently Vegeta was 5 years old when Planet Vegeta was destroyed. That gives me a 5-year window to make a compelling story out of something that's never really been told to us directly. Upon some more investigation and really thinking it over, I came across a conclusion that would start off the scenario with a bit of a question to some people. That is that Planet Vegeta started out as a male-based monarchy. But StevDeS! You can't do that to the Saiyan race! They were all about power levels! How dare you promote sexism! Flag the video! Take it off YouTube! Take it off YouTube! Hear me out, people. I've come up with 3 main things that support my theory based on the barbaric Saiyan race, and I say barbaric loosely. Number 1, the ruler. King Vegeta. Whenever Frieza's not around, this is the guy that makes the decisions for the planet. It is not a queen, it is not a council, it is one man in particular. It's clear that because she wasn't explored by Akira Toriyama or anyone else, by that matter, and except, as far as I know, except for the what if that Masako did, you know, the one with, you know, people actually listen to Bardock. I don't know who would listen to Bardock. But because she was never mentioned in the actual source material, at least while I was watching it, and while I couldn't find anything about her, it was clear that the Queen didn't make any dictations as far as the law and society. The king held power, and if you weren't Lord Beerus or Lord Frieza, your opinion did not matter. Number 2, the commoners. When we were first introduced to Gine, we were led to believe that due to her low power level, she was destined to be a cook, feeding the soldiers that would come and go from the battlefield. It made sense. As far as power levels were concerned, you want the strongest Saiyans out there and the weaker Saiyans planet side to rear children, to raise families, to send children off into pods, and all this other stuff having to do with that. I believe that a majority of these Saiyans that would be planet side would be women, because you don't want a pregnant warrior. If a woman wants a family, and let's face it, Saiyan women were strong women. Most women, if they wanted a family, they voiced that opinion to their mate, and they stayed planet side. They were happy about that, and the more powerful women, I imagine, would be there to defend the planet in the event of an attack. Hence with the Tuffle Saiyan War. I'm sure there were plenty of Saiyans that stayed at their homes ready to fight because they were strong women ready to defend their homes. Not to mention, since babies are a prime thing in the way Saiyans did things, sending infants to random planets to destroy them and take them over for Lord Frieza, I think keeping the women safe, the ones that could have babies, would probably be the smartest call. It's because of this reason, for defense and making babies, that women would most likely be planet side. Number 3, the Frieza forces. This one's a bit of a stretch. Let's look at Bardock's Planet Elite Force, aka the 5 whatever. That one, Schmidt, thanks. You have Salipa, who was a female, the token female of the unit. Then you had Bardock, male, Tatapo, male, Pumbukin, male, Toma, male. Do you see where I'm going with this? From this, we can assume that Frieza's command were mostly male soldiers. When Frieza wanted all the Saiyans dead, and we saw that in the Bardock special, I imagine, for example, Raditz survived because of his low power level. He was able to be easily manipulated, and because he was off on a planet by himself doing something for Frieza, probably far off. And Frieza just didn't want to send troops and waste money to go kill him. That's why I believe the specific rule was anyone under the power level of 2000 does not need to die. Well, why did Vegeta and Nappa survive? Well, of course, Frieza is very manipulative and would know that, oh, well, Nappa's a simpleton and will follow anything Vegeta says, so why not play to Vegeta's need for power and all that? I can just make them my own. Lucky for Raditz, he was a one-man wrecking crew with a power level lower than 2,000 if this theory's to be believed. More than likely, Frieza wanted to cause the extinction, meaning all females had to die too. So, in the original source material, I could see why there was very little female Saiyans in the Frieza forces. With that out of the way, and Planet Vegeta's social structure established for the remainder of this What If, at least this part of it, because Planet Vegeta is going to die in 5 years. I have just one more thing to add to this, and that is I'm going to be keeping the names uniform throughout. King Vegeta, Queen Kasaba, Vegeta. Just because Vegeta is born female, and with my rules as they are, I'm going to be calling her Vegeta. I'm not going to say, oh, well, her name is Celery. Or Rutabaga? I don't know Saiyan names. So, even though she wasn't born female, I'm still going to be referring to her as Vegeta throughout this. I'm sure in the original timeline, if this were to happen, Vegeta would have a different Saiyan name, but just so we know who we're dealing with, and trust me, it'll all make sense when I get to a certain part of this part, we're going to keep her name as Vegeta. Now let's kick it off at age 732, when Planet Vegeta has a new heir to the throne, and both parents are actually kind of shocked that it is a girl. Well, King Vegeta doesn't really care. all the time that we see King Vegeta, he doesn't really take an interest to his kids. All he knows is that there's not a proper male heir, meaning we're probably gonna have to have another one, honey. Don't get me wrong, the parents are very happy to have a child and an heir to the throne regardless of the gender. But King Vegeta says, well, it has to be a King Vegeta. Can't be a Queen Vegeta. Whatever, she'll find a suitor when she's of age. Age 735, 3 years later. Vegeta is growing up, and at about 3 years old is when I believe Saiyans would start training and start wanting to become the warrior race that they know. So even though she's sloppily punching and kicking the air, one day King Vegeta in the courtyard does notice this. She does have a fighting spirit about her, and maybe she doesn't need to be part of the Frieza forces. Maybe she would be better as a general or something like that for the planet Vegeta. I don't know, we'll get to that eventually, but one thing's for sure, this young Saiyan definitely has potential. And according to the scouter that he has in his pocket the whole time... What? Toriyama can make up stuff, why can't I? He puts it on and finds out that the 3-year-old's power level is at just under 3,000. Wow, that's powerful for a 3-year-old. And I believe that, yeah, Vegeta would want to just make her dad proud at this point. I'm sure this is after the time that Beerus arrived, and seeing King Vegeta bowing down to the God of Destruction, she would want to be a more powerful Saiyan than the God of Destruction when she grows up. She wouldn't want to be groveling like her father was. So, why not start early and try to teach yourself how to fight? Nobody else is doing it. Of course, in the middle of Vegeta's training, there is an announcement that a ship is now landing in the front yard. And this ship is a ship that has Queen Kasaba on board. Vegeta runs out to greet her mother, only to get a shock. There's someone else on the ship, too. And I think you die-hard Dragon Ball fans know where I'm going with this. It's Tarble, a boy about 1.5 years old. Oh no, Vegeta. You've just been dethroned. And this, of course, sparks anger in the child. She can't believe there's finally another Saiyan child. I was gonna be the one with the crown. I was gonna be the ruler. I was going to be the strongest ruler. That is when Vegeta has her very first rage boost. Of course, the scouters on Queen Kasaba and King Vegeta light up with this power, and it's proven that this Saiyan does have potential, and she needs to have proper training. In the middle of this tantrum, and just as the scouters are just about getting to the 10,000 mark, she lets out a roar and shoots her very first Gallic gun, a tiny one, kind of like the one that Goku, shot the car with, and just boom, shoots a giant beam of light into the air. Oh man, her parents would have been proud and kind of shocked. A 3-year-old just got to the power level of 10,000. Wait, StevDeS, I want to bring up something here. If you have Tarble coming off of the ship, does that mean he was born off planet? I thought you said pregnant women didn't have to, be doing this. Now, that is true, but considering she's the Saiyan Queen, I believe Queen Kasaba would have a diplomacy rule in order to, take some of that off of King Vegeta's shoulders. She has to have some sort of responsibility outside of child rearing. So preparations are made so that Vegeta can get the special training in order to be a proper warrior for the Frieza forces. She would be invaluable as a weapon for Frieza to use to smite powerful planets in his reach. Preparations, of course, would take a little while because this is high-end training for a child. They're gonna have to organize some things with the more elite Frieza forces. Over the course of this 6 months of waiting for the training to begin on another planet, I believe that Vegeta and Tarble would not be the best of friends at all. Vegeta's still Vegeta. She's still going to be very mad at her little brother, and I imagine in the middle of the hallways or any other sorts of areas that they see each other, every so often she might smack him, punch him in the shoulder, push him down, try to get him tougher, Because if this Saiyan is supposed to be the king, he can't be clinging to mommy the whole time. Plus, we're talking about Vegeta here. If she doesn't like someone, she wants to show that she is more dominant than that person in her power level. Vegeta would want to prove that she's the dominant one, so that's why she'd bully Tarble so much while she got the chance in the 6 months before she does take off to go do her training. And we skip ahead to age 737 after Vegeta's off the planet, doing the training that we see in the Bardock special, you know, killing Cybermen. We are now at the point where Vegeta is at the brink, planet Vegeta is at the brink of its destruction. You know, the point where Bardock's doing his, Frieza! 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 Queen Kasaba, after several failed attempts at trying to contact King Vegeta on her scouter or any other source that they could, is deciding to fear the worst. Frieza's ships are right overhead. Right over the city in the distance. This is not good. Whatever Frieza has planned, this could mean that the Saiyan royal family, at least, is about to be completely wiped out, and Lord Frieza is about to assert himself onto the planet. Queen Kasaba gets Tarble from his bedroom and takes him to the area where they have the escape pods. It's all lined up on a wall, but for some reason, 2 of the pods are missing. And this doesn't sit well with the Queen. There's only 1 pod left. They didn't have time to make another pod for Tarble. With all the different assignments that Frieza had made multiple Saiyans go on, there were barely any workers on the planet. In fact, the rest of them were probably off planet, getting offed. Queen Kasaba runs with Tarble down the hallway and finds the last pod, opening it up, and puts the sniffling child of Tarble, who just doesn't understand why is she sending her 3-year-old son to leave the planet like this? Why isn't she coming with me? That's when Kasaba puts her hands on his shoulders, looks into his eyes, and says, "You need to be a strong ruler. Go find your sister. She will train you the way that you need to be trained. I love you, my son." At least I would say that if there was any inkling of love from Vegeta's parents in the original saga. Instead, all she says is the ruler part. And then she also says, "I'm sure you will be a strong ruler in the future. Now go. Planet Vegeta is going to be gone by the time you get there." She doesn't know this for sure, but she needs to be sure that Tarble doesn't come back. She needs to be certain that Planet Vegeta is gone in Tarble's memory. In order to preserve the Saiyan bloodline, he needs to survive. And coming back to a planet that could be overtaken by Frieza is not a good way to do that. With that, Tarble, crying, is launched off into space. And the last view he sees of the planet is of a giant fiery ball crashing into it. This is, of course, Frieza's death ball, but to him, he doesn't know better. It's obviously a giant meteor. Before he sees the explosion, he sees it far off in space, by the way. But he's far outside the explosion's range by the time it does happen. And Planet Vegeta is no more. The Saiyan brother and sister are now orphaned. In about a day or 2, Tarble lands on the planet and is trying to find Vegeta as much as he can. This is the first time this child has even been on one of Frieza's planets, much less even traveled the planet himself. He was mainly secluded in the castle, in the royal palace. But after asking enough guards and one of them saying, "You just go down here, take a left, take another left, take another left, and take another left, and then go straight. You'll find her. Now don't talk to me." Eventually, he does get there, and he finds Nappa waiting outside the door. Nappa is smiling at the little child, saying, "Ha, so I guess it's time for you to go ahead and start your training then." Tarble looks up at the Saiyan, greets him, and asks him if he knows anything about Planet Vegeta. Nappa does confirm that he knows, as he's gotten the report that Planet Vegeta has been destroyed, but Vegeta doesn't know that yet. Tarble can still keep his promise to his mother to tell Princess Vegeta that their planet has been destroyed. As they talk about what happened on the planet and how Queen Kasaba is dead, King Vegeta is probably dead, and the whole planet's probably gone, Vegeta comes out in order to see her snot-nosed little brother standing there and starting to tear up. What kind of Saiyan is this? Crying? Tarble goes up to Vegeta, grabs her arms, and starts shaking her like, Vegeta, I can't believe this is happening. This is bad because planet Vegeta's all gone and it's all gone and all the Saiyans are gone and we're all... And he's just, babbling and making nonsense because he's very emotional right now. Vegeta pulls an arm back, backhands him across the face, then grabs his shirt and pulls him close, glaring into his eyes angrily. She can't believe the kind of lies that her little brother is giving her right now.
How dare you, Tarble? What makes you think the planet is gone? I bet the Frieza forces have been dispatched and were able to defend the planet if anything were to happen. We have plenty of proper Saiyans on the planet as well to defend it. How could you tell me that a giant stupid ball of rocks was able to...
And then Nappa interrupts her. Nappa tells her that reports did come in that a giant meteor crashed into the planet and destroyed the planet along with all of its inhabitants. And your father. And mother. You know what? Put that up, Schmidt.
But the good news is we're going to Dairy Queen!
I'm sorry, I'm just a fanboy. Hearing this, the young Saiyan warrior is indeed distraught. But then she really thinks it over. No Saiyan order, no monarchy. No monarchy. That means my little brother doesn't have power. Power is measured upon power levels. Vegeta is happy to have this information as she tosses her brother to the ground, puts her boot down on his chest, glaring down at the Saiyan, saying, "Well now, I suppose there's a new leader of the Saiyan race, isn't there? The most powerful Saiyan alive." Which is unfortunate for her because she kind of has Frieza to contend with, and she didn't think that much through it. Yeah, that bravado was for nothing. So, Tarble's now in this scenario. Under Vegeta and Nappa, Tarble gets to start training. I feel like sometime later they would be meeting up with Raditz and they'd be a 4-man Saiyan wrecking crew. But shut up, 4-person. Saiyan wrecking crew that would take over planets and do the usual grunt work for Frieza. I imagine though Tarble would be, reluctant to do the training, but still very much enthusiastic of doing something. While Tarble isn't really that powerful of a Saiyan, due to the blue-blooded nature and how Vegeta was able to progress, Tarble does have hopes in the future. I think that Tarble's power level towards the beginning of the Saiyan saga would be between Raditz and Nappa, that gray area in there. I think that Tarble's power level would be somewhere between Raditz and Nappa. Because he's more of a light-hearted soul, he would get less Zenkai boosts, less battle situations, but that doesn't mean Tarble's entirely useless. Essentially, Tarble could take over the role as the technical guy. He could know about space travel, know about navigation, and know about different aspects of the Frieza forces, how they work, what different equipment they have, how the blasters work, how the scouters work. He would be able to analyze this information and simplify it for the likes of Nappa and maybe Raditz. I don't know, it's really not decided how smart Raditz is because he got all of 5 episodes to display that. I believe that the power level scale towards the beginning of the Saiyan saga would look something like this. Raditz, thanks to Tarble being there, would actually have increased power. So would the other 2 Saiyans. I think that with Tarble there, another Saiyan, the power levels would go up slightly, but not a whole lot. Towards the beginning of the Saiyan saga in the original, Raditz was at about 16 to 1500, in that range. Nappa was at 4000, and Vegeta was at about 18,000. With Tarble in the scenario, I think that his power level would be somewhere between Raditz and Nappa, as I stated. But where would Raditz and Nappa be now? I think with Tarble's addition, Raditz would have gone up to about 1850, hitting around 1800 to 1900. Nappa would be shooting up there at about 4,800, maybe almost 5,000. And Vegeta would be right at the 20,000 mark. Just before the Saiyan saga begins, we know what happens as far as what Raditz wants to do. Raditz wants to go to Earth and get Kakarot, but of course he's not going to just go and do it gung-ho. He's going to ask Vegeta and Nappa if he can do that. In this timeline, I would have it that Tarble would overhear the conversation, you know, having been left out of multiple different battle scenarios just because he's lighthearted and he's too weak-minded. He would step forward and tell his sister, I want to go with Raditz to go to Earth. Of course, Nappa and Vegeta are confused about this. Why would they need 2 Saiyans for such a weak planet? They sent a baby with a power level of 2 at birth in order to take out this planet. Clearly, it doesn't need 2 Saiyans whose power levels are almost 5,000 to go to the planet. That would be a waste. But Tarble steps forward and throws Raditz under the bus. Vegeta, I think I can do it, because, let's face it, I think Raditz can't do it. After messing up on several missions, surely you want a member of the royal family to address someone like Kakarot. He wouldn't really care about his family, he's been gone for so long. Raditz, of course, hates this, and before he even thinks about it, he punches Tarble in the shoulder. Tarble recoils a bit and rubs his shoulders like, oof, ow, Raditz, that hurt. But Vegeta doesn't take kindly to this. Keep in mind, Vegeta doesn't like her family, but if you mess with her family, you are going to get it. She jumps and does a roundhouse kick to Raditz's face, sending him through one of the walls, and decides, since her brother decided to stand up, and Raditz clearly doesn't like her little brother, it's better Raditz babysits, as opposed to letting him stay around the ship. Besides, I have a series of missions, Nappa. We need to go off-planet for a while, and this would give my brother something fun to do. But if Kakarot doesn't come back, you're the one that needs to kill him, Tarble. I don't want any failures. Do you understand? Tarble then nods and heads out with Raditz to begin the Saiyan saga. And that is where we're going to leave off. With Tarble in the scenario, do you think something different's gonna happen? Will the Saiyans end up just blasting the humans away? Just taking over the planet? Or will Tarble's nice demeanor end up costing the Saiyans more in the end? How do you think Z will be different considering Tarble's part of the scenario in the Saiyan saga? Leave your comment below, like and subscribe if you like the video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Oh, before this video ends officially, I want to thank all of you subscribers that have stuck by me. I know it's not a lot on the channel, but I really do appreciate it. Every subscriber I do get just fills me with, I don't know, determination to do this. And yeah, I haven't been able to do a whole lot, and it does hurt, but I know that some of you subscribers are close friends, and I'm very happy to have your trust. I'm very happy to have you in my lives. Me in your lives. You in my life. You know I mess up sometimes. So, I will see you in the next one, and there will be a next one. One a week if I can. Ciao.